Cincinnati minus 14 versus University of South Florida. Now, for you avid podcast listeners, you know I started fading South Florida in the beginning, and I was losing, and I was pissed. South Florida was getting like kick return touchdowns, fumble recovery touchdowns, winning games they shouldn't have won, and their schedule was god-awful. We knew that they were fake. We knew that they were overrated, but I kept getting burned against the spread. Well, good news is I finally start betting them again, and I found the right time to do it because they have been getting their ass kicked. Now they're playing a very tough Cincinnati team that has the defense to stop them. You know, let's look at who South Florida played before, right? They played Elon. They played Georgia Tech, which is the one with all the kickoff returns. Illinois. You know, and this was they should have lost to Illinois, but Illinois is not that good. East Carolina, Massachusetts, Tulsa, Connecticut. Some of the worst teams out there. And then they finally run into Houston and lose. They run into Tulane and they lose. Now they're playing a better team, Cincinnati, and they're only laying 14 points. I'm taking Cincinnati minus 14 here for sure. Now it is time to get into
the sharp side of the force.
The sharp side of the force. Brought to you by uwager.eu. Please use the promo code TheOddsBreakers for a 50% one-time bonus. Let's get into it. I only cover side bets that are over 20% difference between the amount of tickets and the amount of money. So if the amount of tickets was like 60% on a game, yet the amount of money was only 40% on the game, that's a 20% difference. And that's why there's some sharp money on the other side. Ohio at Miami of Ohio shot up from -3 to -5.5, and a bunch of sharp buyback brought it back down. So I just wanted to point that out. NC State from -15 to -17, hosting Wake Forest. Kansas at K-State from +12 to +10.5. We're on that. UNC at Duke from +10.5 to +10. Rivalry game. Oh, man, I can see this. I'm going to wait till the public or somebody jumps back on Duke and see where this line goes. That North Carolina side looks good to me. Charlotte at Marshall, +14.5. UTEP hosting Middle Tennessee State, +15 down to +13.5. It's a letdown spot for UTEP. They got their first win against Rice. So I'm not going to bet on UTEP there. Liberty, +23.5 at Virginia. Yeah, Virginia, that's a lot of points for them to lay, right? East Carolina at Tulane, +15.5 down to +14. Florida Atlantic hosting Western Kentucky, -17 to -20. Coastal Carolina, +6.5, hosting Arkansas State. Cincinnati hosting USF, -12 to -14. Arkansas hosting LSU, +14 to +13.5. Money on Arkansas. Yeah, I guess this is a fade on LSU after that heartbreaking Bama loss. Stanford, -23.5, hosting Oregon State. It's a big number, too, for Stanford. Sharp totals. Dual action on Florida versus South Carolina, under 54. Dual action on Wisconsin versus Penn State, over from 51 to 55.5. I really can't trust the QBs here. Sori's banged up and Jack Cohn's playing. Don't know enough about that. Not doing it. Washington State versus Colorado, under 60.5, a 49% difference. A lot of under bets. Big ones. Ole Miss versus Alabama, over 51.5 to 53. Baylor versus Iowa State, under 51. Man, that's going to be cold. Dual action on App State versus Texas State, under 48. Rice versus Louisiana Tech, under 52. And this is a 66% difference between the ticket totals and the under. So there's a ton of ticket totals on the over, but a lot of money on the under. Dual action. Temple at Houston over 69, and Florida State versus Notre Dame under 54.5, and there's a 57% difference. So somebody knows something there. Notre Dame's got a really good defense. Much better than they have had in the past. NFL Week 10 time. All right. So let's go back to the well, guys. Detroit versus Chicago. Chicago's laying minus 6.5, creeping up. I mean, come on. Did you think we were not going to go back to Chicago? The Bears. The Bears rank 4th in overall efficiency on DVOA. If you ever look at Football Outsiders, great site. And the Lions rank 29th. I mean, that's a pretty big difference. That shows your efficiency difference right there. The Bears' pass rush has been great lately. Great. And that's been without Khalil Mack. Okay? The Lions gave up 10 sacks last week to the Vikings, and they are now back on the road, second week in a row, facing one of the best defenses in the league. On the other side of the ball, the Bears' offense starting to gel. I mean, you didn't see it last game because you didn't need it. Not good for fantasy, right? And they're not turning the ball over like they have in the past, right? They remain pretty healthy there. Pretty healthy. They lost Long, but they've got some decent depth there and offensive on the guards. The offensive production is actually pretty similar to the Lions. You know, slight edge to the Bears in yards per game, 359. Lions have 353. And defensively, the Bears have the edge by about 35 yards per game. Okay. The Bears are top 3 in scoring defense. That's a stat I really like about this game. Top 3, allowing 19 points per game. Most power ratings actually have the Bears. You know, if you look at Sagarin, if you look at team rankings, they have the Bears by about 7.5 points. So I'm taking the Bears minus 6.5. Took it already. I like that key number. And I also think, you know, they might shake up Stafford a little bit, possibly get a pick, turnover. And you just got to love the way this defense is running. And they're actually gunning for their first division win here, too. So, oh, yeah, did I mention that Khalil Mack is back this week, too? Book it. Jacksonville versus Indianapolis, minus 3. So if you run the numbers here, I put all these in my algorithm. These teams are pretty similar from a net yards perspective, with only a difference of about 14 yards, right? The Jags have the defensive advantage, and the Colts have the offensive advantage. A little bit of yin and yang there. One difference in these stats is that the Colts have been very injured. Very injured. You saw that Patriots game after against the Jets. And they're finally getting some players back. Or they got them back the last couple weeks, let's say. Since the Jags have lost the offensive tackles Will Richardson and Josh Wells, this has not been last year's Jags team. They got blown out by the Chiefs. They got blown out by the Cowboys. They got their asses kicked by the Texans. And then they lost at home by 6-7 points against the Eagles. I think it was 7-8 maybe. But anyways, none of these games were even that close. The biggest thing that sticks out to me here is the yards per point. It only takes 13 yards for the Colts to score a point. Pretty efficient. And it takes 21 yards for the Jaguars to score a point. Now, much of this is due to poor quarterback play from Blake Bortles. Luck is a top 15 quarterback this year. And he's, lost Doyle for a while. He lost T.Y. Hilton for a while. And now he's getting back Jack Doyle. Blake Bortles is a top 30 quarterback who lost a ton of receivers last year, including Austin Seferian-Jenkins this year. Okay. Now, I know they get Fournette back, but I don't think he's going to be enough without their two offensive tackles that he's used to running behind to do a lot of damage here. I'm a big offensive line guy. To add to the Jags' woes, they actually have 3 cornerbacks questionable for this game right now. So you got to think maybe 1 or 2 might not play or be very hobbled. But the fact that the Colts are only laying 3 points here, which means pretty much pick them on a neutral field, I'm going to go with the quarterback. Okay? I'm going with the quarterback. I'm going with Andrew Luck. He's rejuvenated this year. Colts, -3 points. Lay the points. I'll give you a quick hitter. Dallas versus Philly, laying -6.5. I love betting on teams after a bye, and I love fading teams on short weeks. In this situation, you have both, and you should have a very good coach. Well, you have a very good coach facing a very bad coach. My numbers have this at about 6.57 on the algorithm, but it doesn't factor in the time that Philadelphia had without Carson Wentz. It doesn't factor out the time that Philly had without Alshon Jeffrey. And you got to upgrade it because of this, I believe. And Philly is on a mission to take back the control of the NFC East division. Dallas also lost guard Connor Williams last week and linebacker Sean Lee. So this is an easy play for me. Philadelphia, lay the points, -6.5. Here's our teaser. We've been pretty good on teasers, 6-4 throughout the year. Should be better, actually. But whatever. Miami, I'm teasing Miami up to 15.5 against the Green Bay Packers. Numbers-wise, this came out as like a 4.5 or 5. I bet Miami, they look so bad against the Jets. But I'm okay with teasing them past the key numbers of 13, 14, all the way up to 15.5. I'm okay with that because Adam Gase has played the Packers many times when he was offensive coordinators for the Bears. He knows what to do. And I'm going to tease them with the Eagles under. So I'm going to take the Eagles under from 43 up to 49. Plus 15.5 Miami. Tease them with the Eagles under to 49. 6-point teaser. Our premium plays for the NFL are Washington versus Tampa and Seattle versus the Los Angeles Rams. My friends, if you have any questions, please feel free to tweet us at the Ozbreakers. I want to thank you guys for listening. You guys are the best. I really appreciate the fans out there, the people tweeting. We would be nothing without you guys. Really love the fact that you're so engaged and, hopefully having some fun with this. Go out there and get some winners.